Hey guys, Veronica here. Good morning and happy almost spring. I wanted to give you guys a quick update. I was trying to get in before the sun rose, but it's a little difficult here. We have some clouds forming here over the ocean right now, so hopefully it'll get cloudy because I'm kind of shooting like a two-part thing today. And we have some rain in the forecast, but anyway, I wanted to give you just a quick look around at what's been going on here since we last did a little tour of the property, probably a month ago now, maybe a little bit longer. And one of the things that you guys have asked for are more consistent updates with the various projects that I'll touch on, and then, my ADD goes wild and I run off somewhere else. So I'm going to try to give you guys those more consistent updates that you've been asking for, just seeing how things are progressing as we go, and it's not just suddenly we're harvesting stuff. So quick shot. There's a little workspace on the porch here. As you can see, I'm starting to get, more pots in place, my little towers and various containers that, all have food going in them. So that's fun. Some new additions to the fort within the last week. There's, this guy's not new. This little artichoke. I've had him for a while, for I'd say like 2 months, but he got transplanted because everything's getting gopher cages. All my perennials are on the root system just so that the roots can really get established without the gophers munching them. And then this passion fruit vine, which I think is the best location for him, but he's definitely struggling to get a little bit settled in there. So he's coming back. It's just, transplant stress, and it was a little hot that day. What's going on over here in this area that still needs the retaining wall replaced, and hopefully the rain doesn't wash it out and then we lose our driveway, is that I planted some cover crops. There's a little bit of vetch coming up. There's some poppies that are coming up, trying to sort of like mulch and get roots in place to help prevent a lot of this soil from continuing to fall. We're going to walk this way now. So the grapevines are starting to show some signs of life. I will show you. There's one over here. I got some little, I put some wildflowers and whatnot in here, but I've got some little nasturtiums starting now to come up on this hillside, which feels like a good spot for them under the grapes. It's going to be really beautiful when they're all blooming. And you see, the grapevines are popping. So I'm very excited about those. These are not there's not a wild grapevine as far as I know up on this mountainside, but this was an old homestead, probably 100 more years ago. So, solid chance those were planted by homesteaders 100 years ago, and I don't know what variety they are, but that sort of stuff is very fun to find out. So I'm excited to see if we can get them to produce some fruit. I'm gonna walk around the bird netting and show you. This was just a little test plot that I did. I don't know. It's been a few months now. But as you can see, I've got these peas here that are starting to take off. I want to say they were some sort of bushing variety, but they're starting to vine a little, so I might have to give them some trellis in the background there. That's just all volunteer stuff. So there's some sort of radish that, reseeded previously. There's nettles that are starting to go to seed that I might have to make something with to get them out of here before I have nettles just covering this bed. Not that that would be bad. But I'll save them and do something. There's a couple of, these are always my weird little grow your veggies from your veggie scraps experiments. So I had living roots lettuces that I popped in here to see if I could get a little bit more lettuce out of them and see, what the soil is able to support naturally on its own before I add too much stuff to it. Couple of radishes the tops are popping now. I got those at the farmer's market. And they still had a little bit of top on them, and then they got sat in the fridge. So I was like, I'll stick them in the garden because if nothing else, they'll rot and feed something, and now they're growing. So I might get some radish seeds, but at least some flowers. And then there's a couple right here. That was sort of the little mix I put together. Alternate cover crop ideas. And so we got a lot of that sprouting now, which is exciting, as well as a couple of, little onion bits, because that's just something I do. And this is the bed here that I did cover crops in. As you can see, they're a little hit and miss. We're going to tackle this separately in another episode coming up to show you what I'm going to do to it now that I have some plants emerging, seeing that the growth is not super vigorous. How am I going to address this before it rains so that I can get more seeds in there, to get more nutrient cycling, to get more plants going, and all of that jazz. So that's coming up, but I wanted to just give you a quick peek at that. All through these areas here, as you can see, this rock wall is like starting to take off a little. Some of that is stuff I planted. Some of it is weeds. We have a little bit of a pioneer species issue here in the form of star thistles. And while I love having some good deep tap roots going into the ground now to really get those sorts of nutrient cycling, I don't necessarily love letting them go to seed. So I'm going to keep an eye on the star thistles because those things hurt when you step on them. Over here, we're going to walk over to the spiral. As you can see, it is growing in. I'm very proud of it. I'll get you a little close-up here. I should do inserts instead of the front-facing close-up, but it's a huge mix of lettuce, arugula, various other greens. There's some herbs in there, there's wildflowers, and so they're all kind of coming up alongside the native plants. And so you'll see things like, miner's lettuce, some of the native poppies. There's various weeds that I, don't want, and some grasses I pull out. But overall, this guy's doing well. He gets a watering can when it's a little dry that I put, a little microbial and food cocktail in, maybe once a week. So not too shabby. If you notice this, you're like, what's going on this porch back here? Because it looks like a disaster. Well, it's not, but I don't have my greenhouse yet. And it sounds like it's going to be a few more weeks. That's the nature of working with, trying to figure out how to get established in a new space as quickly as possible. But so this is my temporary greenhouse that is for all of my graduates from inside. As you can see, maybe you can see up in the windows, my little, I was going to say insect motel. That's not right. It's my little plant motel. There might be some insects. But then anyone who got too big for those britches, the windowsill that is, and needed bigger pots already, and I'll just open this guy up to show you. So, ta-da! They're all in there. And so I have a bunch of peppers and tomatoes now, beginning of first week of March, moving out. They're not ready to go in the ground. We're going to get a storm and mid-40s this week. So, or this coming week would be our evening lows. So it's 60s in the day, 40s at night. So they're not quite ready for those temperatures. But they should be okay with this plastic. We'll see if the big storms blow off the plastic or not. This is just sort of my little work area, in case you were like, what's all that other stuff? I have, pots and stuff in here, as well as stuff I don't want it to get wet. And then a couple of buckets of some bokashi fermenting compost, which will be part of the next thing that we do in this raised bed. I'm very excited to put those pieces together for you guys. Let's check out. I did my fig propagation the other day. I did not film it again because I feel like the one I did before was pretty comprehensive. I've just done figs so far. I have a few other things that I got to get to, but this is my experiment in propagating this year. Rather than wrapping every single one, and I got to keep an eye for mildew, but rather than wrapping every fig, I just got a really big, tote container that is fairly airtight from the hardware store, and then filled it with sand so that the fungus gnats could not have this crazy breeding ground if there were any in the potting soil. Did everything else the same, but did not wrap each cutting individually. So I'm hoping the level of moisture in that container right there is enough to keep them going, to keep the cuttings going until they actually form roots. So, it's either a total win or total loss. It's going to get interesting. The one other thing that I wanted to show you guys before I close this guy out is that currently looking now that I know I'm getting a greenhouse at some point in the very near future, next few weeks. I'm currently looking at spots to put it, and I have a spot picked out, and the neighbor has a spot picked out, and so just kind of comparing those. But walking into this spot that's, you can see, it's like 100 feet from the house, maybe a little more. Hopefully I don't step on anything snake-like that's awake yet. But so there's this spot here that's pretty darn flat, and you can see it gets morning sun, but then it's also shaded later on in the day when it gets hot. And so I'm looking at this spot, and then my neighbor was saying that she cleared another spot that's like just a little bit lower, but I'm a little bit nervous that it might not get enough sun. So it's a work in progress. Living in community in a setting that's like a little more communal. Everyone gets a say. It's part of the, working together and living together. And not having, friction is to kind of talk things through, especially when there's semi-permanent structures like a greenhouse. Talk through like, okay, where can this go, where it works for everyone, and also works for the structure itself. So that is in the works. I'm very excited. We're going to have some guys out here looking to build a deck for it soon. And then it'll get shipped in a couple of big boxes, and we'll do a really fun unboxing and assembling because, I love to put things together, especially when they're like IKEA furniture style. Although it's not IKEA furniture, it's a greenhouse, because IKEA doesn't make a greenhouse. I don't know why. I don't know. We should email them and find out, because I feel like they have the flat pack mastery down. Anyway, random rambling about that, but that's a solid look around. Oh, one other thing, because everyone's like constantly asking questions about pruning, and I was going to show it to you when it was in the 4-inch pot, and then I got a wild hair to get these guys potted up the other day because they were getting a little cranky. But, so this was the guy, it wasn't last week, but it was like sort of a week and a half ago. This is the one that I pinched off in that video, just randomly at the end, when I was standing in front of the kitchen window. But that's the pepper that got pinched. And you can see how much he's leafed out in like the last probably 10 days now. Just got transplanted like 2 days ago, so it's not because, solely because he has all of this like fresh soil and space for the roots. The roots were not really crowded in that pot in the 4-inch, and it could have stayed longer. But since I was moving stuff out, I needed the window space. It just made sense to get him in a bigger pot. But I wanted to show you, like, that is how rapidly they start pushing out more growth. So if you have really leggy pepper plants that are struggling at this point of the year, highly recommend just pinching them back, maybe giving them a little bit of seaweed solution in their water, any sort of like microbial teas and cocktails that you're doing very diluted, and then letting it ride, because it'll look sad and a little leafless for like a couple days, and then it just kind of goes boom, and all of these leaves come out. So anyway, I'm going to talk more in the next episode that we're shooting this raised bed prep about the sort of like microbial stuff that I find to be very useful, pretty consistent, very accessible, and my thoughts and concerns around just like usage of that sort of stuff in general. We're talking about feeding, but we're not dialing the nutrients in ourselves. We're letting microbes do the work for us. We're going to get into that, like I said, again in the next episode. So we are going to sign this one out. If you have any questions, comments, suggestions, if there's something that I missed, please leave them in the comments below. As always, if you like what you see, hit that subscribe button, ding that bell. Don't miss a single episode, because we are just doing updates like non-stop this year. Trying to get a little more method behind the madness, a little bit more of the process and considerations that go into gardening and growing your own food in a more ecologically sensitive capacity that will actually serve you longer term than most of the methods put out there by the Green Revolution. So like, subscribe, ding that bell, follow me on Instagram at FlavorKit, and until next time, happy gardening.